We're here to talk about at-risk crops and the inherent challenges with specific crops grown in thousands of North American greenhouses. These are the usual suspects, plants that often come under pressure from specific pests and diseases. Dr. Healy's here to help you produce these crops by managing such pressures using strong preventative strategies and putting programs in place to minimize risk. Will, first off, welcome.
Well, thanks a lot, Bill.
So I hope I explained kind of the basics of at-risk crops, but there's a lot more to know. So when you talk to growers about at-risk crops, which I'm sure you do fairly often, and how to manage them, how do you explain it, I guess, from a high level? And how should greenhouse professionals think about at-risk crops in terms of planning programs to minimize the challenges throughout production with the ultimate goal of sending healthy plants to market with minimal losses?
Well, and what I like to think about and try to explain to people is that growing plants has some inherent risks, some inherent problems that we really have to be monitoring and just be aware of. And so what we're trying to do is make people aware of what are some of the primary problems they might have with crops, and so that they can plan ahead and be prepared. Because unfortunately, when you have the problem is the last time to actually try to figure out what you're going to do. What we need to keep in mind is the disease triangle, which is one of our biggest problems, because if you have a plant, you have a pathogen, the disease, and you have an environment or the cultural conditions right, you've got a problem. If you put a fungicide or a different pesticide, you can break that cycle so that you don't end up with a dead plant or a diseased-looking plant. But there are some basic things that you can do. Remember, when you've got a crop that's known risk, make sure that you're using tested seed that's been tested free of that disease, or that you're using clean unrooted cuttings from a known source. Make sure that your facility is clean and that you don't have diseases hanging over from last year, a very common problem in a lot of growers' operation. They wonder, why do we have this problem? Well, you had it last year, you got it this year. So break the cycle, and there's a lot of good chemicals out there to help you break the cycle. Also, look at your cultural program. Sometimes being too wet basically encourages disease and insect problems to spread throughout your crop. So let's make sure that you're using the right cultural practices of fertilization and watering and light conditions so that the plant will grow to be healthy. If you have to use chemicals, make sure that you're using the right chemical at the right time. Many times we say, well, I did spray. Well, you sprayed the wrong chemical, doesn't control that pest, or you sprayed it at the wrong time or the wrong frequency. So let's make sure it's the right chemical at the right time. And then also, probably the most critical one is to monitor the problems. Can't tell you how many times, Bill, that I have a grower call up and say, I've got a huge thrips problem. And you kind of ask them, well, what's your count? Well, I've got hundreds of thrips on my thrips cards. And you kind of go like, that didn't happen overnight. Where did they come from? This problem's been going on for weeks and weeks. Tend to it early, control it easily. Tend to it late, spend a lot of money. So we're really trying to just alert growers to what are some of the common risks of some of the major crops that we grow so that they have a successful season.
That makes a lot of sense. And Ball Tech On Demand is going to cover a range of these at-risk crops throughout the year, and we're going to share as many resources as possible to arm you with the information you need. You'll find it in print, you're going to find it on video, and you'll even find it in podcast form. So if you go to ballseed.com and look for FAQs, control strategies, and crop specifics, you're going to find a lot of information. I'm going to put the links to that in the show notes. Thanks, Will.
Thanks, Bill.